Today's guest is the president and CEO of SBA Communications Corporation. He's a very extra special guest, and you'll notice why here in a minute. Welcome to the show, Jeff Stoops.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Alba.
I'm so glad you're here. So our listeners may notice that Stoops rings a bell, has something to do with the Stoops Center. It absolutely does. Jeff Stoops is the reason the Stoops Center of Law and Business exists, and we'll jump into that a little bit later. But let's go back in time a bit. So, Jeff, tell us about your connection to FSU and specifically to FSU Law.
Sure. I was born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware, lived there for 20 years, and started out at the University of Delaware. But along the way, thought that I needed a change of scenery, a change of pace. And I ended up almost sight unseen down here at FSU as a transferring in junior. Lived at Cawthon Hall and stayed on here for 2 years. And along the way, not only met my wife, but made a lot of good friends and made the decision that ultimately wanted Florida to be our home. So stayed on for law school, so spent 5 glorious years here in Tallahassee, and the experience that I had in law, of course, has prepared me for everything else I've done, which is why I'm so happy to always be able to come back and give back.
So did you always know you wanted to go to law school, or was that
did not.
What was the original intent for your life?
I always thought I was going to be a doctor.
Okay.
And then I met organic chemistry. And organic chemistry said, no, you're not going to be a doctor. And that was part of the fresh start, leaving University of Delaware and coming down here to FSU. I was a biology major up until that time, and I needed to take a new turn.
So did you consider anywhere else other than Florida State law, or was it always, I'm going to stay here and stay at FSU Law? I
applied at a couple other schools just as a safety thing, which I think everybody does and should do. But this is always where I wanted to be.
Okay. And when you were in law school, did you know what kind of law you want to practice? We interviewed a lot of students that say they think they know, but they're really not sure. What was your thoughts at the time?
I actually did, and it was shaped more by my fear of public speaking and standing up in a courtroom. I did not want to be a litigator.
Okay.
So I focused really from and this actually really served me well over my career. I became very focused on corporate law and in particular securities law. And when I graduated, that's what I went for, and really went for those positions that were even more specific than corporate, but to the securities law side of things. And it happened that, in 1984, there was a good demand for that type of training, and allowed me to get, a great job where I started my career as a lawyer and stayed for 13 years before I ended up leaving to join SBA.
Okay, so what was your first job out of law school?
It was with the firm Gunster, which is probably well known to many of your listeners, or at least it should be. It's one of the largest, firms in the state of Florida. It's a Florida-focused firm. They have not expanded outside the state of Florida, but are now all over the state, and just a great organization. So I started in 1984, right after graduation, and that was another kind of interesting, fortuitous event in my life. Aggie and Aggie's my wife, we'd never been in Palm Beach County. So we went down there and had an interview, liked the people, liked what I thought of the area, didn't really know anything about it. So we loaded up the small car that we had and went on down and began to make our life. I did have a chance to stay in Tallahassee with a very good firm here in town, but we decided that, both having grown up in the Northeast, we were looking for something a little more commercial, a little more urban, and particularly with my interest in securities law, there are other places in the state of Florida, South Florida in particular, where you're going to, find more of that activity than necessarily here in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm. We talked to a lot of our guests about your path from there to where you are now. And I find it very rare that people say they knew exactly what they were going to do, and here they are now. What was your path getting to where you are now, and how did that happen from Gunster?
Well, I had no idea that I'd be sitting where I am today. So I don't want to give the impression that this has all been a carefully thought out, smooth plan. I guess about the only thing I knew, Alva, is that when I came to law school, I wanted to do transactional work, and I had an interest in securities. But from that point forward, my story's been one of working hard and putting yourself in a position to get some lucky breaks, and then when those breaks come along, realizing them and taking advantage of them. I mean, it's pretty. It's that simple. It's certainly not been carefully thought out, or planned out, rather. So I was at Gunster for 13 years, worked my way up all through the various ranks of associate to income partner to equity partner, and actually loved it. The people there, we just had a great time. It's very collegial. It's very intellectually stimulating. But along the way, being a corporate securities lawyer, I got a chance to meet all kinds of different people in business, represent a lot of clients, and I began to develop the belief that, I think while I really enjoy what I'm doing, I'd rather be the one making the decisions and living with the consequences than being an advisor. So I was looking for the right opportunity, not because I wouldn't have ultimately been happy the rest of my life at Gunster, because I think I probably would have been, but just looking for that special opportunity that may allow you to take a different turn in life. And I met, again, very fortuitously, Steve Bernstein, who's the S and the B behind SBA Communications Corporation. Steve continues to be our chairman to this day. He was the founder, sole owner of the company. He'd built a great business. At that time, it was in wireless cell tower construction, location and construction, wasn't ownership, which is what we are today. And he needed a lawyer to review a proposal or an overture that he had received. So his CFO at the time had a brother-in-law who was a litigator at Gunster. And the call came to that particular attorney, and then I was, and this is a story I tell often as an inspiration to young lawyers. The call would have typically gone to our department head, but he was out to lunch, and I was
literally out to lunch.
No. He was never out to lunch in that way. But he was. It was lunchtime.
Yeah.
So he was out, and I happened to be working at my desk.
Wow.
For lunch, and I got the call. So we decided that we would meet, and to make a long story short, we developed this unbelievably great relationship. I helped him, Steve Bernstein, navigate some big decisions that he had to make with respect to the business, and we just developed a great bond. So the decision was made to transition that business, which was exclusively a services business at the time, to more of an asset ownership business, a recurring business model. And so we needed that. The biggest difference there is it requires a lot more capital to run that kind of a business and buy and build the assets. So I was working on a private equity raise for SBA, which is the only time we'd ever raised money privately. And that was very successful. And all through that process, I saw some very smart, successful investors who were very taken with the company. Accountants, were amazed at how clean the books. So all the touch points and the data points and the little things that you think about when you basically take a chance in life, those were all coming up positive. No red flags. So Steve ended up making me an offer to join SBA right before the private equity closed, and I was to come in as general counsel. But what I was really to do was to begin the growth of the asset ownership side of the business. So Aggie and I talked about it. It was not an easy decision. We had 4 kids, 6 and under, and she needed to know that there was health insurance. And once I got her comfortable with that, it was a go. And I've just been a very fortunate fellow who was in the right place at the right time, knew enough to take advantage of the opportunity, and since then, obviously, wireless has exploded. Nobody knew
Right.
how possibly big it would become and how much of a integral part of all of our lives it would become. Nobody knew how much wireless equipment would be needed to make all that happen, and we've been the beneficiary of a lot of that, and it's been the greatest experience that I could imagine anyone could have, and I've been very fortunate to have it. But when I think back on all that good fortune, I think back to kind of the causal relationship with how I got there, and kind of the, people go through life and they say, well, but for this, I would not have done that. And it comes back to FSU Law. It comes back here because this is where I got the training, the interest, the ability to go out and get that job at the Gunster firm, which then led me, of course, to what I'm doing today.
So you obviously are very committed to FSU, to the FSU College of Law in many different ways. One of those is by providing scholarships to students. Can you talk to me a little bit about the Stoops scholarships and what that enables for students?
Sure. That's something that we have, our family foundation has been doing now, 5, 6, maybe even 7 years. And what it started out to be was more of a 3-year scholarship, but then we got Erin in as our dean, and she's so tremendous in so many ways. She actually was able to get from the provost a bunch of new scholarship money that actually was meeting and exceeding the purpose that originally was going to be met by the Stoops scholarships. So we have transitioned that program to a series of 1-year scholarships. You have to be a 2nd or 3rd year student now, and it really works better because the purpose behind the Stoops scholarships is to further the careers and help those who have expressed and by the time that they get to 2nd year student, demonstrated an interest in corporate law, transactional law. So it's really everything I'm really doing for the law school, whether it's the Stoops family scholarships or the collab, it's really to help us grow our business and our corporate and our commercial practices, because of course that's the world that I've grown up in, and I think there's just so much opportunity out there in that area, and we're already, we're great at a lot of things, including our moot court and our, production of young, high-quality litigators. I just wanted to make sure that there was as much emphasis on the commercial and the corporate side of what goes on here as there is on the litigation side, and I'm pleased to say that we are headed in a great direction. But back to the Stoops scholarship. So you need to commit to getting a business law certificate and be part of that program, and then it's a merit-based scholarship where Nancy, the dean of students, looks at all kinds of applications, and then we get a chance to see what they're doing, but what the school, where those scholarships end up getting awarded, and if you get one in your 2nd year, you have to reapply, because our kind of view is that, well, this is meant to encourage people to be excellent, at all times. So it's a 1-year scholarship that has to be reapplied for as a 3rd year student, and there have been mostly repeat awards. Some have not, where their production or their interest has fallen off. But it's really meant to help take what we all know is a financially demanding choice to go to law school, to take some of the pressure off those students who are going to be putting themselves, hopefully, or perhaps in some of the positions that I was so happy to be a part of and be fortunate to be a part of.
So let's shift our focus just a little bit to the Stoops Center of Law and Business. So you referred to the collab earlier. This is the reason I am here today. And the Stoops Center of Law and Business, the acronym naturally formulated collab, and we felt that really embodied the business, the intersection of business and law that we were trying to capture. Tell me your vision for the Stoops Center of Law and Business. How did it come about, and where do you hope to see it go?
Well, it really got its start with the College of Social Work, which is where we first established a center with this idea. And there's many layers to the onion, and I'll start with the most general. These centers, first at the College of Social Work and now at the College of Law, are meant to facilitate, create opportunities and advantages for the college, the faculty, and the students. I mean, that's number one. Mm-hmm. But what we found over time in starting to work through these concepts is that universities are, in many cases, rigidly run organizations. There's certain rules and particularly for professors. Professors have a lot to do. They have to teach classes. They have to worry about tenure. And while they do great work, what we found is that to realize the full benefit of that work, they need help. And in my background and experience as a head of a corporation, I'm very comfortable with what we call the back office and the things that have to be done to allow the front of the house to succeed. So what at its most basic, the centers, they are facilitators, and they help faculty, students, and the communities that they serve accomplish things that really can't be accomplished in a true university setting. Mm-hmm. And the way these are structured is the Stoops Collab is, of course, underneath the College of Law, as is the Social Work Center. But the key, and we've got a great one in you, is the executive director, and where they because that really can't be a faculty, a true professor type, because of all the different perspectives and the different requirements that exist on professors today. So the key to these centers is the right executive director, and we've got the right one in both of them. Thank you. And someone who understands what we're trying to accomplish, and the perspective of these centers is very broad, which is great. They're very flexible. Mm-hmm. It's basically gear up, be ready, have the right team in place so that, much like my own life story, when opportunities arise, you can run to daylight. Yep. And we're doing that here through the executive education programs, mm-hmm. which they're great programs and they're going to provide a lot of value, but they don't have to go through the same degree requirements, of course, that regular courses for credit do. And so there's much more flexibility to act entrepreneurially. Mm-hmm. And it really is kind of an entrepreneurial catalyst in both colleges that we were hoping to create, and I'm confident that we have. And I think it's going to bring all kinds of opportunities and new partners and new relationships into what is already a great atmosphere. But there's just so much more that can be done when you're not kind of stuck a negative. I don't mean to say stuck in a negative way, but stuck in a track that professors generally have to live in because of their requirements of publishing and tenure and teaching classes. Mm-hmm. And professors and faculty generally need help when it comes to, how do I commercialize this thought? How do I put this into practice? How do I connect it to, the real world, the outside world? I mean, and it's interesting because of the two centers, what really took off at the College of Social Work Center was the grant writing. Mm-hmm. They've been awarded just unbelievable number of pretty large grants that the professors that will ultimately end up and students that will ultimately end up working on those, they just don't know how to do. They don't have the time, and they don't have the. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of support and resources. And here at the Stoops CoLab, we're putting on a very powerful, rich educational offering, which is geared towards specific topics that our faculty knows, but we're supplementing that with people who are out in the business world who are actually living in those worlds every single day.
Right.
So that we're able to bring the topics, but also in a very pragmatic and practical way that I think are going to make the folks who participate in these programs, extremely pleased with what they get.
Right. I had an interesting call. You talking about the time involved to be an executive director of one of these centers and really latch onto ideas and make it happen. I got a phone call from another college that shall remain nameless, and she said, "Our dean heard about what you're doing, and they want us to do it. How much of this out of your week? How much time do you spend on just the center?"
I hope the answer was 100%.
The answer was 100, and I wanted to say, and it's not 40 hours either. It's a lot more than that, and I love it. But you live it, you breathe it, you want to latch onto it. And every time we bring an alum, and I say alum, we have 30 to 40 different courses going right now. At various, 8 to 9 of them are finished. 2 or 3 are almost finished. We have another almost 20 that have just started and are in the works in topics such as healthcare, insurance, real estate. Our first 2 offerings are employment and HR and privacy law. And every time I talk to an alum about what we're doing, they say, okay, how do I get involved with that? I am now having alums from Florida State College of Law call me and say, hey, I specialize in, great example, bankruptcy. Just happened this week. I'm a bankruptcy attorney. I've heard y'all are doing this, and I think businesses could really gain a lot from hearing and taking a course about bankruptcy. What do you think about that? We want to be a part of this. And it's that constant energy flowing into my day that is so exciting about what we're doing, to the point where one of our sports law courses, an alum that works for NASCAR said, hey, we want to wrap a car with the FSU College of Law wrap, and we want to feature it in a race. What do you think about that? I said, well, what could I possibly? Yes, we love that. But that's social media effort. That's photography. That's the logos. It doesn't just happen overnight. So she quickly hung up this phone call that I got and said, okay, thank you. I think she went right back to her dean and said, you need to hire another person to make this happen. But none of this would happen without your generosity, and we would be remiss by not saying, and Aggie's generosity, because some of our listeners may say, law and social work, where is the connection there? Aggie is a graduate of the College of Social Work, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I feel like that's probably the reason that center exists as well, and to Ellen Peklikevich as well, who is my counterpart over there, and what an amazing job she does. And she's been a mentor to me in getting this center off the ground. So none of this would be possible without the generosity of you and Aggie both. What pulls at you and makes you want to give back financially to your college?
Well, we've been very fortunate. We've had a blessed life. We've got 4 wonderful children who are now having children of their own, and we've achieved financial success well beyond what we ever dreamed or, frankly, need. Which is that's an interesting conversation in and of itself. But
podcast for another day.
But so we just feel like we need to be giving back because we feel that we're very fortunate. We basically think we're just extremely two fortunate people who need to share their good fortune with others who aren't as fortunate. And we all know a lot of folks, and you see similarities, but then something happens great for this one person, and the other one just doesn't work out. And that's the way life works. It's a mystery. Nobody really knows why all that happens. We tend to view ourselves as we've exceeded our lifetime equivalent of good fortune, and it's time that it's good for us to give back. We like to do things where we see tangible impact and positive results, and the centers have been extremely gratifying for Aggie and I, because of we're seeing things happen, and it's not and I'm not discouraging this, because universities like FSU need all the outside money that they can get. But when you actually have a specific plan, and you can see how it's developed, and you see tangible results from your giving, not only is that rewarding, but it's fun. We really enjoy seeing the progress and all the different lives that get impacted. I mean, several years from now, you'll have a list of students that have passed through and done various things with the CoLab, and there'll be a network out there that will be better off because of their experiences. And those are the kind of things that we just take great satisfaction from.
So when you're back on the podcast in 10 years, that'll be 2032. What do you hope we're talking about on that day? What would you like to have looked back over the last 10 years and see that the Stoops CoLab has become?
I would like to see it fulfill the dream, which and the dream is to improve the overall standing, condition, and prospects of the College of Law in the business and corporate area, and the faculty and the opportunities that students who are interested in that area are presented. So, looking back, we will look at what has the CoLab done? What has it generated? Has it received and earned recognition and reward from all kinds? Because one of the beauties of the way these centers are structured organizationally within the university is they are their own profit and loss centers, which is very important because it allows for the funding in an entrepreneurial and opportunistic way. Now, obviously, they're under the colleges, but the centers have their own bank accounts. They have their own statements. You'll be able to track profit and loss, and the monies that are generated through either educational certificate programs or grant writing or sponsorships or ads or conferences. Those are all able to be, recycled, reused in these centers to propel our success. So what I hope is that we're bigger. You have a full-time staff of 3, 4, 5, 6 people. There's a sustainable revenue stream, and that we can go back and count and see the number of lives that whether it's faculty or students or others, that we've positively impacted. That'll be a great success. And I'm very confident that we will get there.
I would agree with that. And I hope in 10 years we are having that exact conversation. And I hope it's bigger and
will.
better than we even anticipated that it would be. All right, before we wrap up today, I'm going to ask you 3 of our Think Fast series. Ready?
Ready.
All right, 3 questions. How do you take your coffee?
Black.
Me too. It's kindred spirits here. There's not many of us left in the world. My dad always drunk it black. I didn't know it came any other way until I was in college, and then it was too late.
I used to take it with cream. I don't think I ever took it with sugar. I used to take it with cream, but now it's just black.
All right, what's the one movie you could watch over and over, or you really love it? It really moves you.
The Godfather.
Oh, part 1, just the original Godfather.
Yeah. Have you seen the streaming show called The Offer?
No.
You got to see it. It's about the making of
I know
The
what you're talking
Godfather.
about. I know what you're talking.
Yeah.
I have not seen it. It's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll put that on the list. All right. Predictive score for the FSU College, the FSU football game this weekend, Georgia Tech. Give me a prediction.
31-14 FSU.
31-14 FSU. You heard it here first. Jeff, this has been great. We really enjoyed having you. Thank you for everything you do for FSU, for the College of Law, and for the Stoops Co-op.
We're really very pleased to be able to do it. It brings us great joy to, see other people do well and grow, and we're so very, very excited about the work you're doing here. We're lucky to have you, and I do look forward to that conversation 10 years from now.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you.